The message came on a Tuesday morning, when the sun was just rising over Seoul. Admiral stood in the command center with a cup of coffee in her hand. She was a woman of 53 years, with gray hair tied back in a tight bun and eyes that had seen too many battles. Around her, dozens of officers worked at their stations, monitoring satellites and communication systems. Then every screen in the room turned blue. The coffee cup fell from his hand and shattered on the floor. She did not notice. Her eyes were fixed on the massive display at the front of the room. A face appeared. It was not human. The creature had pale purple skin, 4 eyes arranged in a diamond pattern, and a mouth that seemed too wide for its narrow head. When it spoke, the words came in perfect Korean, then English, then every language of Earth at once. "People of the planet called Earth," the creature said, "I am Emperor of the Empire. We rule 47 star systems. We have watched your world for many years. Today we make our decision known." Admiral felt her heart beating fast. First contact. After centuries of wondering if humans were alone in the universe, the answer had finally come. But the answer was not what anyone had hoped for. "Your species has been evaluated," Emperor continued. His 4 eyes showed no emotion. "You are strong. You breed quickly. You can survive in many conditions. These qualities make you valuable. Therefore, the Galactic Council has declared humanity a Class 7 labor species." The room went silent. Admiral heard only the blood rushing in her ears. "In simple terms," the Emperor said, "you are now slaves of the Empire. Our fleet will arrive at your planet in 14 days. You will surrender peacefully and your people will be distributed to work sites across our territory. Resistance is not advised. You have no weapons that can harm us. You have no ships that can escape us. Accept your place in the galactic order." The screen went dark. For a long moment nobody moved. Then Admiral turned to her officers. Their faces showed shock, fear, and something else, something dangerous. "Get me every world leader on the line," she said. Her voice was calm and cold. "Now." Within 3 hours, something happened that had never happened before in human history. Every nation on Earth agreed to work together. Old enemies shook hands. Ancient conflicts were set aside. The President of the United States spoke with the leaders of China and Russia. The Prime Minister of Japan called the President of South Korea. They all said the same thing: "We will not be slaves." General Minyu was put in charge of Earth's defense. He was a tall man with broad shoulders and a scar across his left cheek from a war 30 years ago. He stood before the United Nations, which now met in emergency session. "They think we are weak," General Minyu said. "They think because we have never left our solar system we are primitive. They are wrong." He pressed a button and images appeared on the screens around the room. Weapons, terrible weapons, bombs that could crack continents, viruses that could end all life, machines that could tear apart matter at the atomic level. For 100 years, humans have created weapons too dangerous to use against each other, General Minyu explained. "We locked them away. We hoped we would never need them. But now we have an enemy worthy of our worst creations." On a small island in the Pacific Ocean, Doctor received a phone call that changed her life. She was a physicist, 41 years old, with messy black hair and glasses that always slid down her nose. For 15 years, she had studied theoretical weapons at a secret research facility. "Doctor," the voice on the phone said, "your project is no longer theoretical. You have 2 weeks to make it work." Doctor looked at the equations on her whiteboard: antimatter compression, gravitational weaponry, things that should only exist in science fiction. "I understand," she said, and hung up the phone. Captain gathered his soldiers in an underground bunker. He was 35 years old, with kind eyes that turned hard when he spoke of the enemy. His men and women looked up at him, waiting for orders. "I will not lie to you," said. "Many of us will die, maybe all of us, but I would rather die fighting than live as a slave. Who stands with me?" Every hand in the room went up. Lieutenant was among them. She was young, only 26, with short hair and quick reflexes. She had joined the military to protect her family. Now she would protect all of humanity. "Captain," she said, "what is the plan?" Smiled grimly. "We hide, we wait, we let them think they have one, and then we show them what humans do when we are pushed into a corner." Across the world, the same scene repeated itself. Soldiers moved into underground bunkers. Civilians were evacuated into hidden shelters built during the Cold Wars of the past century. Cities went dark. Streets became empty. The fleet arrived on schedule. 3,000 ships, each one larger than any building on Earth. They filled the sky like a metal storm. The aliens scanned the planet below. They saw empty cities, dark buildings, no resistance. They smiled their too-wide smiles and prepared their landing craft. "The humans have accepted their fate," the commander reported to Emperor. "They hide in fear. This will be easy." But deep underground, Admiral watched the alien ships through hidden cameras. Around her, 6 billion humans waited in silence. "They have made a mistake," she whispered. "They looked at our empty streets and saw surrender. They do not understand. We are not hiding because we are afraid." She turned to General Menu. "Are the weapons ready?" "Every city," he confirmed. "Every continent. We will hit them everywhere at once." Admiral nodded. "Then let them land, let them spread out, let them believe they have one." Her eyes were cold as the space between stars. "And then we will teach the galaxy why humanity should never be underestimated." Above Earth, the landing ships began their descent. Thousands of alien soldiers prepared to claim their new slaves. They did not know that they were walking into a trap that would change the universe forever. They did not know that the silent planet below was not surrendering. It was preparing for war. The soldiers walked through the empty streets of Seoul like they owned them, because in their minds they did. Commander watched them through a tiny camera hidden in a broken traffic light. He was in a bunker deep beneath the mountains, surrounded by screens showing every major city on Earth. Everywhere he looked, he saw the same thing: purple-skinned aliens marching through human cities, searching for humans to capture. "They are spreading out," he reported through his radio, "just as we planned." Admiral's voice came back, calm and steady. "How many have landed?" "At least 300,000 across all cities." "Good, tell all units to wait for my signal." Nodded even though she could not see him. His hands were shaking, not from fear but from anger. These creatures had come to his home and called his people slaves. Today, they would learn how wrong they were. In the Seoul subway system, Lieutenant crouched in the darkness with 200 soldiers. They had been waiting for 6 hours. Their muscles were stiff. Their stomachs were empty. But their eyes were sharp and their weapons were ready. The weapons were old by galactic standards. Simple guns that fired metal bullets at high speed. The aliens had abandoned such primitive technology thousands of years ago. Their shields were designed to stop energy weapons, lasers, and plasma beams. They had never thought to prepare for flying metal. Looked at her soldiers, young faces, old faces, men and women who had never fought an alien before, but they were ready. She could see it in their eyes. "Remember the plan," she whispered. "When the lights go out, we move fast, hit them hard. Do not stop until they stop moving." A young private named raised his hand. "Lieutenant, what if the plan does not work?" Smiled grimly. "Then we make a new plan. Humans are good at that." Above them, on the street level, a group of soldiers entered a building. They were looking for hidden humans. They found empty rooms and dust. "This planet is strange," one of them said. "Where did all the creatures go?" His commander made a sound like laughter. "They are hiding in holes like animals. We will find them soon. The scanners will locate their heat signatures." But the scanners were not working properly. Something in the Earth's atmosphere was interfering with their technology. They did not know that human scientists had released special particles into the air that confused alien sensors. At exactly 3:47 p.m., Admiral spoke one word into her radio. Now. Across the entire planet, hidden devices activated at the same moment. They were electromagnetic pulse bombs, designed to destroy electronic equipment. Every piece of technology within range died instantly. The alien soldiers watched in horror as their weapons stopped working. Their communication devices went silent. Their armor systems shut down. Above them, ships that were hovering too close to the ground fell from the sky and crashed into buildings. Then the humans came. Lieutenant burst out of a subway entrance with her soldiers behind her. They turned to face them, but their weapons would not fire. They reached for their backup blades, but they were too slow. The sound of human gunfire filled the streets of Seoul. Had trained for years to fight other humans. Aliens were new, but a target was a target. She aimed for center mass and squeezed the trigger. The in front of her fell. "Keep moving," she shouted. "Do not let them regroup." The aliens tried to fight back with their bare hands. They were strong, stronger than humans. But strength means nothing against bullets. For every human that fell, 50 died. Captain led his own attack. He had positioned his soldiers on rooftops around the city center. When the EMP hit, his snipers began their work. Watched through his scope as officers tried to rally their troops. One by one, he removed them. Clean shots, professional, deadly. "This is for my planet," he said quietly as he pulled the trigger again. The battle lasted 4 hours. When it was over, the streets of Earth cities were covered with alien bodies. 300,000 soldiers had landed. Fewer than 10,000 escaped. The survivors ran back to their ships, only to find that many of those ships had been destroyed by the EMP or by human missiles launched from hidden bunkers. They managed to get a few damaged vessels into orbit, where the main fleet still waited. On the command ship, Admiral received the reports with growing disbelief. His 4 eyes blinked rapidly as he read the numbers. "Impossible," he said. "They are primitives. They have no advanced weapons." "They do not need advanced weapons," his advisor said quietly. "They have weapons that kill. That is enough." The surviving soldiers sent one final message before the human jamming systems cut them off. "They fight like animals. They do not surrender. They do not stop. They have weapons we cannot block. Send everything. Send the entire Empire's fleet. These creatures are more dangerous than anything we have ever faced." Back on Earth, Admiral stood in her command center and allowed herself a small smile. Around her, officers were cheering and crying. They had done it. They had beaten the first wave. But she knew this was only the beginning. "Get me doctor," she said. The scientist's face appeared on screen. Her eyes were red from lack of sleep, and her hair was even messier than usual. But she was smiling. "The first test was successful," reported. "The antimatter compression field held. We can scale it up." "How big?" "Big enough to crack a moon." Nodded slowly. "How long until we can build ships that carry these weapons?" "If we have every factory on Earth working around the clock, 3 months. You have 2 months. Smile faded, but she nodded. "I will make it work." Admiral turned to General Menu. "Start the evacuation of non-essential personnel to the deep bunkers. They will return with their full fleet. We need to be ready." "And what do we do when they come back?" His eyes were hard as stone. "We do not wait for them to come back. We go to them. We take this war to their worlds. We show them that Earth is not a planet of slaves. It is a planet of warriors." Captain arrived at the command center that evening. His uniform was dirty and torn. There was alien blood on his boots, but he stood tall as he saluted Admiral. "Seoul is secure," he reported. "My soldiers are ready for the next fight." Studied him for a long moment. She saw the fire in his eyes, the same fire she felt in her own heart. "Good," she said, "because the next fight will not be on Earth, it will be in the stars. Can your soldiers handle that?" Smiled, it was not a happy smile. It was the smile of a predator. "Admiral, my soldiers just killed aliens with guns that are 300 years old. Give us spaceships, and we will show the galaxy what humans can really do." Nodded, "Then prepare them. In 2 months, we launch the first human fleet beyond our solar system." She looked up at the ceiling, as if she could see through it to the stars above. The wanted slaves. Instead, they woke up the most dangerous species in the universe. Now they will pay the price. The human fleet emerged from behind Jupiter like ghosts from the darkness. 100 ships, each one built in secret over 2 desperate months. They were not beautiful ships. They were rough and ugly, made from whatever materials Earth could spare. But inside each ship were weapons that could end worlds. Admiral stood on the bridge of the flagship. The ship was called Vengeance, and it was the largest vessel humanity had ever built. Around her, crew members worked at their stations with focused determination. "All ships report ready," Navigator announced. He was a young man with steady hands and a brilliant mind for mathematics. "Jump coordinates are locked." Looked out the main window at Earth. It was so small from here, a blue dot in the endless black. Everything she loved was on that dot, her family, her friends, her home. She was going to protect it, even if it cost her life. "Begin the jump," she ordered. The human fleet vanished into a tunnel of light. They had learned how to travel between stars by studying the crashed ships from the first battle. Human scientists had worked day and night to understand the alien technology. They had succeeded just in time. The fleet emerged in space, near a planet called Praxis. It was a military world, covered in bases and weapons factories. 40 warships orbited it like guard dogs. The commander saw the human fleet appear on his screens and laughed. "Only 100 ships. Our fleet destroyed 300,000 of them on their own planet. What can 100 do?" He would soon find out. "All ships," Admiral said calmly, "weapons free." Doctor had created something terrible. The missiles that launched from the human ships carried antimatter warheads wrapped in gravitational compression fields. When they hit their targets, they did not just explode. They created tiny black holes that existed for only a fraction of a second. But a fraction of a second was enough. The first warship simply disappeared. One moment it was there. The next moment, it was a twisted mass of metal collapsing into itself. The crew did not even have time to scream. The commander stopped laughing. "All ships return fire," he shouted. "Destroy them." The ships launched their own weapons. Energy beams and plasma torpedoes flew toward the human fleet. They were devastating weapons that had destroyed countless enemies across the galaxy. But the human ships did not fight like other enemies. Captain commanded a smaller vessel called the Storm. He had spent his career learning to fight, and he had studied every battle in human history. Now he applied those lessons to space combat. "Hard left, now right, drop altitude," he shouted at his pilot. The Storm danced through space like a leaf in the wind. Weapons passed harmlessly. Baez refused to stay in one place for more than a second. "They cannot track us," his weapons officer reported with surprise. "Their targeting systems are too slow." Smiled grimly. "Humans have been fighting each other for thousands of years. We learned to dodge, to weave, to never be where the enemy expects. These aliens fight in straight lines. They have no imagination." He pointed at a cruiser. "Target that ship, fire." Another alien vessel died. The battle lasted 11 minutes. When it was over, all 40 warships were destroyed. The human fleet had lost only 7 ships. Lieutenant, who commanded the Marine forces on the Vengeance, stared at the battlefield in amazement. Broken alien ships floated through space like leaves after a storm. "We won," she whispered. "We actually won." Admiral allowed herself one moment of satisfaction. Then her face became hard again. "This was only the beginning," she said. "Broadcast a message on all frequencies. Let them know what just happened." Captain's face appeared on the screens of every ship and station within range. "This is Captain of the Earth Fleet," he said. His voice was cold but clear. "You declared humanity to be slaves. You came to our home and tried to take our freedom. You failed. Now we are coming to your home. Surrender now and we will show mercy. Continue to fight and we will show you none." The message ended. Across space, millions of aliens watched in shock. The primitive species from the isolated system had just destroyed one of their most powerful military bases. News spread quickly. Other alien races heard what had happened. A species with 8 arms who had been enslaved by for 2 centuries. The small creatures with large eyes who were forced to work in mines. The proud warriors who had been defeated and broken by the Empire. They all heard the same news. The humans were winning. On the Vengeance, Doctor worked in her laboratory. She was making more weapons, better weapons. Her hands moved quickly across computer screens as she designed destruction. Admiral found her there, surrounded by equations and diagrams. "The Emperor has called his full fleet," told her. 8,000 ships, they are gathering at there. Looked up from her work. Her eyes were tired, but her mind was sharp. 8,000 ships, how many do we have now? 150, more coming every week. That is still not enough. Nodded, "I know. That is why we are not going to fight them alone." She told about the other alien races, the slaves and the conquered, the species who wanted freedom but did not have the power to take it. "If we can reach them," said, "if we can show them that they can be beaten, they might join us." Considered this, an alliance of the broken. Yes, it could work, turned back to her screens. But we will still need more weapons. They have thousands of years of technology. We have only months. Put her hand on the scientist's shoulder. "Then keep working. Make me weapons that will make thee afraid to sleep." Smiled. It was a tired smile, but it was real. "I already have some ideas." The human fleet did not rest. They moved deeper into space, hitting military targets and supply lines. Each battle taught them more about alien warfare. Each victory brought more hope. Navigator plotted their course through enemy territory. He found weak points in defenses. He discovered routes that avoided major enemy forces. He was one of the most important people in the fleet, though he never fired a weapon. "There is a prison planet 3 jumps from here," he reported one day. "It holds thousands of prisoners." Admiral looked at the star map. The prison was not a military target. There was no strategic value in attacking it, but she thought about the people trapped there. People who had done nothing wrong except be born on the wrong planet. "Set course for the prison," she ordered. Captain understood immediately. "We are going to free them." "We are going to show the galaxy what humans fight for," replied. "Not conquest, not power, freedom. That is what makes us different from the human fleet changed course. Ahead of them, thousands of enslaved aliens waited without hope. They did not know that help was coming. They did not know that humanity was about to change everything. The prison planet of 7 was a cold world covered in ice and stone. They had built it to break spirits. Prisoners worked 18 hours a day in freezing mines, digging for precious metals. Many died. They did not care. There were always more slaves. The human fleet arrived at dawn, when the weak sun was just touching the frozen horizon. Admiral looked at the planet through the Vengeance's windows. She could see the prison complexes spread across the surface like metal scars. Smoke rose from the mines. Somewhere down there, thousands of innocent people suffered. "How many guards?" she asked. 2,000 soldiers, Navigator reported, plus automatic defense systems, but the systems are old. They have not been updated in years. They did not expect anyone to attack a prison, Captain said from his position on the Storm. "Why would they? Nobody cares about slaves." "We care," replied quietly. "All ships begin the attack." The battle was short. The old defense systems fell quickly to human weapons. The guard ships tried to escape and warn the Empire, but Lieutenant's fighters caught them before they could jump away. Then the Marines landed. Led the ground assault personally. She had never seen aliens up close before the invasion of Earth. Now she was fighting them on their own territory. It felt strange. It felt right. The guards were not prepared for close combat with humans. They expected their prisoners to be broken and weak. They expected any attackers to use energy weapons that their shields could stop. They did not expect hundreds of humans with projectile weapons and a burning anger in their hearts. "Clear the buildings," ordered. "Find the prisoners. Kill any who tries to stop you." Her soldiers moved through the prison like a storm. They broke down doors. They cut through locks. They freed prisoners who had forgotten what freedom felt like. The first that found was an old female with gray skin and 8 thin arms. She was huddled in a corner of her cell, too weak to stand. When she saw his human face, she made a sound of fear. "It is okay," said gently. She held out her hand. "We are not here to hurt you. We are here to set you free." They looked at her with large, dark eyes. "Free," she whispered. "That word has no meaning here." "It does now." Helped the old alien to her feet. Around them, other prisoners were being led out of their cells, with 8 arms, with large eyes and small bodies, with tough skin and sharp teeth. All of them looked confused and afraid. But when they saw the dead guards on the ground, something changed in their faces. Hope. A fragile, terrified hope that they were afraid to believe. Doctor was the fleet's communications officer. She was young, only 24, with a talent for languages. She had spent the past 2 months learning every alien language in the database. Now she put that knowledge to use. She spoke to the freed prisoners in their own tongues. She explained what had happened. She told them about Earth, about the invasion, about humanity's decision to fight back. "We are building an alliance," she told the elder, speaking in the soft, musical language of their people. "An alliance of all who have suffered under the, will you join us?" The elder listened carefully. Then she turned to the other around her. They spoke quickly in their own language, caught words here and there: war, freedom, risk, hope. Finally, the elder turned back to, "For 200 years we have been slaves," she said. "We tried to rebel once long ago. They killed half our population as punishment. We swore we would never fight again." His heart sank, but then the elder continued. "But that was before we knew that someone out there was willing to fight for us, before we saw what humans can do." She reached out with one of her 8 arms and touched his hand. "We will fight. Tell your admiral, the stand with humanity." The same scene repeated across the prison. Species after species agreed to join the alliance. Though despite their small size had brilliant minds for technology, they offered to help improve human weapons. Though broken by defeat, still remembered how to fight. They offered their warriors. By the time the sun set on 7, humanity had gained 30,000 new allies. Admiral addressed them all from the Bridge of the Vengeance. Doctor translated her words into every language. "Today you are free," said. "But freedom is not a gift that stays forever. It must be protected. They will come for us. They will bring their full power against us. They will try to put us all back in chains." She paused, looking at the faces on the screens. Human faces, 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 so different yet all united by the same enemy. "We cannot promise you victory," she continued. "We can only promise you this: we will fight until our last breath. We will never surrender, and if we fall, we will fall together as free people." The response was immediate: cheers and shouts in dozens of languages, fists raised, weapons lifted. The alliance was born. Over the next few weeks, the rebel fleet grew. Word spread across space about the humans who freed slaves and fought the Empire. More ships joined them, more warriors, more scientists, more hope. Captain found himself leading joint operations with warriors. They were taller than humans and 3 times as strong. At first, they did not respect the smaller species, but after watching in battle, they changed their minds. "You fight like a," their leader told him one day. It was the highest compliment their culture could give. "I fight like a human," replied, "but I am honored to fight beside warriors." On the ice world of 3, the Alliance fought their biggest battle yet. A supply base protected by 5,000 soldiers. The Alliance force was smaller, only 3,000 fighters. But they won. Lieutenant led the final assault. Beside her was a warrior named, who used her 8 arms to wield 4 weapons at once. Together, they broke through the defenses and captured the base commander. "How?" the officer demanded as put chains on his wrists. "How can you defeat us? We are superior in every way." Smiled coldly. "You think you are superior because you have better technology, but war is not about technology. It is about will, about heart, about fighting for something worth dying for." She leaned close to the officer's face. "You fight for power, we fight for freedom. That is why you will always lose." Back on the Vengeance, Admiral received reports from across the galaxy. Slave rebellions were breaking out on dozens of worlds. The Empire was cracking from the inside. But they were also gathering strength for a final confrontation. "Intelligence reports that the Emperor has assembled his entire fleet," Navigator said. 8,000 ships. They are waiting at the..." Nodded slowly. She had expected this. "How many ships do we have now?" 200, counting all Alliance vessels. 200 against 8,000. She closed her eyes for a moment. "The odds are not good." "No," agreed, "but we have something they do not." "What is that?" The young navigator smiled. "Something worth fighting for." Admiral opened her eyes. She looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, the Emperor waited with his mighty fleet. He thought his numbers would win the war. He was wrong. "Set course for the," she ordered. "It is time to end this." The hung in space like a jewel of purple and gold. It was a beautiful planet, covered in vast cities and ancient monuments. For 10,000 years, it had been the heart of an empire that spanned 47 star systems. Today, it might become a grave. Admiral stood on the bridge of the Vengeance and looked at the enemy fleet. 8,000 ships formed a wall of metal between the Alliance and the planet. They were arranged in perfect formations, rows upon rows of deadly weapons. Her fleet had 200 ships. They floated in the darkness like a handful of stars against the endless night. "They are hailing us," Doctor reported. "Put it through." Emperor's face appeared on the main screen. His 4 eyes looked at with a mixture of hatred and confusion. "Admiral of Earth," he said, "you have caused much trouble for my empire, but this ends today. Surrender now and I will be merciful. Your species will still be slaves, but I will not destroy your planet." Did not answer immediately. She looked at the crew around her. Navigator at his station. Doctor watching from the science bay. Lieutenant with her Marines ready to board enemy ships. Captain on the Storm waiting for orders. They all looked back at her. They all nodded. "Emperor," said finally, "when you sent your message to Earth, you made a mistake. You thought humans would accept being slaves because we had no choice, but you did not understand us. We always have a choice, and we chose to fight." She leaned forward in her chair. "Today you also have a choice. Surrender your empire. Free all the species you have enslaved. Accept judgment for your crimes. Do this and no more of your people will die." Emperor laughed. It was an ugly sound. "You think you can threaten me? Look at my fleet. You have 200 ships. I have 8,000. The math is simple." "Math is not everything," replied. "But if you want numbers, consider this. In every battle we have fought, we have won. Not because we have more ships, Because we have something you do not. And what is that? Something worth dying for. She cut the transmission. All ships, she said into the fleet-wide channel, begin Operation Silence. The battle that followed would be remembered for centuries. Admiral's plan was simple but insane. 50 Alliance ships would attack the fleet head-on. They would die. Everyone knew this. But their sacrifice would pull the enemy's attention to one point. Meanwhile, 3 cargo ships would approach from the other side of the planet. They were painted to look like merchant vessels. Inside them, Doctor's engineers had built something unprecedented: mobile gravitational bombs, not missiles, bombs large enough to tear a hole in space itself. Captain volunteered to lead the 50 ships. "You will die," Admiral told him quietly before the battle. "Probably," he agreed, "but my death will give the others a chance to live. That is a good trade." She gripped his arm. "Make it count." "I always do." The 50 ships charged at the fleet. 8,000 enemies turned to face them. Weapons fire lit up the darkness like a deadly light show. The Alliance ships were fast and unpredictable. They danced through the enemy formation, never staying still, never fighting fair. For every Alliance ship that fell, 10 vessels were destroyed. But the numbers were still against them. Captain Storm took heavy damage in the first hour. Half his crew was dead. His weapons were running low, but he kept fighting. "All ships keep them busy," he commanded through gritted teeth. "The cargo ships are almost in position." On the bridge of the Vengeance, Admiral watched the battle through tears. Good people were dying, her people, but she could not look away. "Cargo ships are in position," Navigator reported, "ready to activate." Closed her eyes for a moment. When she opened them, they were hard as iron. "Activate." The gravitational bombs were unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. When they exploded, they created fields of twisted space that pulled everything toward them. Ships were crushed against each other. Weapons were bent and broken. 3,000 vessels were destroyed in minutes. The formations broke apart in panic. "Now," said, "all remaining ships attack." The Alliance fleet surged forward, 200 ships against 5,000, but the forces were scattered and terrified. Their perfect formations were gone. Their confidence was shattered. Lieutenant led boarding parties onto damaged enemy ships. She fought hand to hand against soldiers, her human strength against their larger bodies. Beside her, and warriors screamed battle cries in their own languages. Captain Storm was dying. Its engines were failing, its weapons were empty, but had one last trick. He aimed his ship at the largest battleship. "All hands abandon ship," he ordered. "I am staying." "Captain, no," his crew protested. "That is an order," he smiled sadly. "Tell Admiral it was an honor to serve." The escape pods launched, watched them go. Then he pushed his engines to full power. The Storm crashed into the battleship at maximum speed. Both ships exploded in a ball of fire. The battle lasted 9 hours. When it was over, the fleet was destroyed. Fewer than 500 Alliance ships remained, but they had won. Admiral landed on with 1,000 Marines. She walked through the ancient streets toward the Imperial Palace. Civilians watched from windows, too afraid to flee or fight. She found Emperor in his throne room. He was alone. His guards had abandoned him. His advisors had fled. He sat on his golden chair, surrounded by statues of the species his empire had conquered. "You came," he said. He sounded tired, old. "I thought you would simply destroy the planet from orbit." "That is what you would do," replied. "We are not you." She walked closer. Her boots echoed on the stone floor. "Please," Emperor said, something she never expected to hear. "Mercy." Looked at him for a long time. She thought about everything his empire had done. The billions who had suffered, the species who had been enslaved, the people she had lost. Part of her wanted to kill him. It would be justice. It would be revenge. But it would not be human. Mercy is a human concept, she said finally. You wanted to enslave us because you thought we were animals, but this is what makes us different from animals. We can show mercy even to those who do not deserve it. She holstered her weapon. You will live, but your empire is over. Every species you enslaved will go free. Your military will be disbanded. Your wealth will be given to those you have hurt. And you will watch. You will see everything you built become something better. Emperor stared at her with his 4 eyes. He did not understand. He could not understand. Why, he asked, why not just kill me? Because killing you would be easy. Making you watch your empire become a democracy, watching slaves become citizens, watching your legacy become dust. That is much worse. She turned and walked away. Welcome to the new galaxy, Emperor, the one humanity is building. 1 year later, Admiral stood before the first Galactic Council. It was held on Earth, in a building specifically constructed for this purpose. Around the great circular table sat representatives of every free species in the galaxy. With their 8 arms, with their large eyes, with their tough skin, and many others species that had been slaves for centuries now sitting as equals. Doctor served as translator. Navigator helped plan the new trade routes between systems. Doctor worked on peaceful technology now, energy systems that would improve everyone's lives. And Captain, they had found his escape pod floating in space. He had ejected at the last moment against his own orders. Lieutenant had saved him. He stood beside Admiral now, his arm in a sling but his spirit unbroken. The galaxy has changed, addressed the Council. For thousands of years it was ruled by the strong. The weak were slaves, but that time is over. Today we begin something new. A galaxy where every species is equal, where freedom is not a privilege for the powerful but a right for everyone. She looked around the room. So many different faces, so many different stories, all brought together by humanity's choice to fight. Humanity did not ask for this war, but when it came, we did not run. We did not hide, we fought. And we won, not because we wanted power, because we wanted to be free. She smiled. It was a warm smile, a tired smile, a hopeful smile. Now we share that freedom with you, all of you. And together we will build something better than any empire. A galaxy of equals, a galaxy of peace. The council chambers erupted in applause. Hands clapped, arms waved, voices cheered in dozens of languages. Admiral closed her eyes and let the sound wash over her. It was done. The war was over. The new beginning had started. Somewhere in the crowd, Captain caught her eye. He nodded once. She nodded back. They had done it. They had changed the universe. And they had done it together. The stars no longer looked cold and empty. They looked like possibilities, like hope, like home. The galaxy had learned a simple truth. Humanity did not seek conquest, but they would never bow. And when they stood up, the universe itself made room.